There are moments in life when silence becomes louder than any noise, and solitude settles into the room like a slow, steady mist. It's not dramatic, it's not desperate. It simply is a quiet presence that at first feels like absence, but it's not. What you're feeling, this solitude, is not a punishment. It's a preparation. It's the pause between what you were and what you're becoming. Bruce Lipton teaches that the environment shapes gene expression. And sometimes the most powerful environment is stillness. Isolation is not the lack of connection. It is the removal of interference. It's the sacred interval where your nervous system begins to detach from outdated patterns and prepare for something radically new. In that space, where external voices fade, something ancient stirs within you. A frequency once forgotten begins to hum again. This isn't just spiritual poetry. It's biological truth. Epigenetics shows us that when thought and motion shift, your cells listen. Your biology doesn't operate in isolation. It dances to the rhythm of your inner field. And when that field is quiet, when the social noise is turned off, when distractions fall away, that's when your body hears your soul most clearly. It's in that sacred quiet that the reprogramming begins. Greg Braden once said, "Loneliness is the echo of a new field forming, not the end of a connection, but the birth of another dimension." What if what you call emptiness is actually your soul creating space? What if what feels like loss is simply the removal of what no longer resonates with who you're becoming? In these moments, your field is gestating, realigning, preparing to birth a new phase of you. It's not punishment. It's recalibration. This isn't about escaping pain or pretending solitude is always beautiful. It isn't. There are nights when the silence is heavy, when the phone doesn't ring, when you wake up and feel forgotten. But even then, especially then, your system is listening. Your biology is adapting. Your energy is readjusting. Something within you knows the old connections, the old roles, the old stories no longer fit. And so, the field retracts like the tide to gather strength before the next wave. This is a sacred phase, a spiritual gestation. Your body, your soul, your energy, all tuning into a new frequency. And like any true rebirth, it begins in the dark, in the quiet, in the unseen. Solitude is not absence. It is sacred preparation. There is a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It doesn't break things. It doesn't even leave traces on the skin. It simply settles in the chest, in the stomach, in the back of your thoughts. It's the silent ache of feeling disconnected, not from the world, but from something deeper, something that once gave meaning to your presence here. And yet, this disconnection isn't a failure. It's not abandonment. It's energy reorganizing itself beneath the surface. Your field, that invisible web of emotion, memory, and vibration, is in the process of detoxifying. You may feel like people are walking away, opportunities disappearing, conversations drying up. But what if the field is simply clearing space? What if these endings are not signs of rejection, but spiritual housekeeping? Making room for what can only arrive in the stillness. Many of the bonds that once comforted you are no longer aligned. The energy they carry is outdated, and the soul knows this. That's why even if your body cries out for company, your soul remains silent. It's not being cruel. It's preparing the ground. Your nervous system has been wired for years to respond to absence with fear. The mind reads solitude as a red flag, but the soul reads it as a green light, a permission to stop, to listen, to let go. What feels like abandonment is often the beginning of a deeper reunion, not with others, but with your own frequency. The depth of this solitude is not a void. It is an energetic pause. It's the final breath before expansion. There is no shame in this stage. It's not weakness. It's not regression. It's the moment the seed is still buried, unseen, but already alive. The pain you feel is not the end of connection. It's the recalibration of your field. And in that recalibration, all that's false, heavy, or misaligned must dissolve. Not because you failed, but because you're being prepared for something that resonates with the truth you're becoming. In the journey of spiritual awakening, one of the most damaging beliefs quietly takes root. The idea that feeling lonely means you're doing something wrong. That if you were truly vibrating high, you'd never feel the sting of absence or the silence of unanswered prayers. This belief is subtle, but corrosive. It paints solitude as failure, when in truth, it is one of the most sacred states of transformation. The culture of performative spirituality, always smiling, always manifesting, always glowing, has created an unrealistic expectation that elevation means constant external joy. But real elevation knows silence. Real elevation knows pause. Real elevation knows retreat. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the most profound biological shifts do not occur under bright lights, but in darkness, in stillness. The subconscious, where true reprogramming happens, does not respond to performance. It responds to presence. And presence often comes disguised as stillness, as withdrawal, as doing nothing. But make no mistake, this nothing is deeply active. It is in this space that your field recalibrates, that your soul rewires the nervous system, that your energy releases inherited patterns too dense to carry forward. You are not failing because you need rest. You are not regressing because you feel alone. You are not out of alignment because you no longer feel inspired. These are not signs of spiritual collapse. They are the signs of spiritual maturity, the moments when the soul stops performing and starts listening. To pause is not to fall. To feel heavy is not to be lost. To be still is not to be stuck. This stage isn't a punishment, it's preparation. The vibrational cocoon doesn't glow on the outside. It doesn't sparkle. It appears lifeless. But inside, a new frequency is being coded. A new identity is being encoded. And just because others can't see your light doesn't mean it is dimmed. It means it's gestating. Loneliness in this sacred view is not a failure. It's not proof you're broken. It's evidence you're in the quiet center of something being born. There are moments in life when everything starts falling away. Relationships fade, jobs end, routines dissolve. And from the surface, it feels like loss. It feels like something is being taken. But from the view of your soul, something very different is happening. What looks like disintegration is often a realignment. What feels like collapse is sometimes just the recalibration of your energy field to match a new reality you haven't yet seen. The pain is real, the grief is real, but it's not the end. It's the reorganization. Your body mourns what the field has already released. That's why transitions feel so strange. One part of you is still attached, while another has already moved on. The biology of loss is encoded in our systems. We respond to change with resistance, to endings with grief. But vibrationally, many of these endings are not punishments. They're preparations. Something in your frequency has shifted, and anything that no longer matches that new tone begins to dissolve, even if you still love it, even if you're still holding on. Greg Braden reminds us, every crisis is a mechanism of energetic recalibration. That means the breaking apart is not a failure of manifestation, it's a sign of manifestation beginning. The silence that follows is not a void, it's a signal. A subtle whisper from the field that says, make space. Something new is approaching. But the soul cannot receive while the hands are still full of the past. You don't need to feel ashamed of mourning what's leaving. That's part of the process. But let the mourning be sacred. Let it be a ritual of release, not a resistance to the realignment. There's a wisdom in what's breaking. There's intelligence in what's falling away. And the loneliness that follows is not empty. It's fertile. It is the stillness before a new frequency speaks your name. It is the dark soil before the seed breaks through. It is not a curse. It is the call of coherence. There is a turning point in the silence when the ache softens, when the emptiness no longer feels like a wound, but like a canvas. In this stillness, a new possibility opens, not through force, but through awareness. When the outside world retreats, the inner world becomes the main landscape. And within that internal space, you have access to the most potent tool of transformation, your own vibration, not the one imposed by others, not the one shaped by survival, but the one that emerges when the noise subsides and the field clears. Loneliness is not a void to be filled. It's a signal to shift direction. When the nervous system no longer scans for validation, it begins to stabilize. When you stop chasing connection out of fear, you start building presence out of love. Activating the parasympathetic system, the part of your biology responsible for restoration, calm, and healing, is one of the first ways to anchor yourself in this new terrain. And that activation happens not through doing more, but through doing less with intention. A few breaths, a tone that calms, a hand on the heart. These are not small acts. They are signals to your entire field that you are safe, even in solitude. From that place of inner safety, a new environment begins to form, not outside, but within. This is what Bruce Lipton points to. The environment shapes the expression of your genes. And your inner environment, your thoughts, your feelings, your rituals, informs your biology at every level. What you whisper to yourself in solitude becomes the code your cells receive. When you say, I am becoming the soil of a new reality, you're not imagining, you're instructing your field. You're shifting the frequency that determines what comes next. Trust doesn't come from knowing what's ahead. It comes from knowing you're aligned now. And that alignment grows when you program yourself with messages of rooted confidence. Not bravado, not forced optimism, but quiet knowing. You don't need proof. You need presence. And that presence can only arise when the fear of being alone is replaced by the pleasure of being with yourself. This is not avoidance. It's alchemy. Loneliness becomes sacred when it's no longer something you survive, but something you inhabit with grace. From the outside, a cocoon looks lifeless, still, as if nothing is happening. But inside, the most miraculous transformation unfolds. Silently, invisibly, completely. The caterpillar does not simply grow wings. It dissolves. Its very DNA restructures. Its form, its function, its identity, everything it once was ceases to be. And only then, from that deep internal death, does the butterfly emerge. This is not just a metaphor for change. It's a map of vibrational rebirth. Loneliness is the cocoon. And in it, something ancient in you is being rewritten. When you enter this space of solitude, your field begins a process of total recalibration. Not because you asked for it. Not because you failed, but because something within you is ready. And readiness often feels like rupture. The dismantling of what was is necessary so that what wants to be can take shape. And just like the caterpillar, you cannot rush this process. The new frequency cannot emerge until the old identity dissolves, not just mentally, but biologically, energetically, emotionally. This is why you may feel so tired, so disoriented, so unfamiliar even to yourself. Because you are no longer who you were, but not yet who you will be. You are becoming. You are inside the cocoon, and that place, though silent, is sacred. It requires trust. It requires surrender. Not to something outside of you, but to the intelligence working within you. Your energy field, your subconscious, your soul, all collaborating to create the next version of you. The cocoon is not punishment. It is preparation. And yes, from the outside, people may think you've disappeared, that you've lost your spark. But what they cannot see is that your frequency is restructuring. Your purpose is being refined. Your vibration is being redefined. Bruce Lipton's work in epigenetics reminds us, biology follows belief. And when your belief shifts, when you accept that the solitude is not death, but gestation, your cells respond with new instructions for life. The new cannot land in a crowded field. It needs space. It needs silence. It needs surrender. So honor your cocoon. It is not the end. It is the sacred womb of flight. Bruce Lipton once said, "You are not a victim of your genes. You are a co-creator of your biology." And this truth echoes deeply in the heart of solitude. What feels like stillness, like silence, like separation, is often the place where the greatest co-creation begins. Not from effort, not from striving, but from surrender. Loneliness, seen through the lens of the soul, is not a punishment. It is a tool of vibrational reset, a sacred threshold where your biology and spirit converge to design the next version of you. It is here, in the quiet, that the soul speaks to the body, that the past dissolves not in anger or rejection, but in reverence. It is in this quiet recalibration that your nervous system learns a new rhythm. It begins to trust the now. It begins to rest in what is. Greg Braden reminds us, the field does not respond to urgency, it responds to coherence. And coherence is born not from noise, but from alignment. Not from chasing, but from allowing. From becoming one with the stillness that shapes you. If it hurts, it's not because you're broken. It's because the old vibration is resisting its own death. But even that resistance is part of the release. You are not alone. You are being repositioned. The universe, in its infinite intelligence, withdraws you not to exile you, but to protect what is forming, to guard the fragile emergence of something true, something higher, something unmistakably yours. This solitude you feel, it is not an absence, it is an announcement, a soft yet undeniable sign that your field is being rewired for the next chapter, that the outdated energies are being cleared, not out of cruelty, but to prepare room for what has been waiting to meet you. You are not being punished, you are being realigned. So listen to the silence, feel the stillness, let the loneliness tell its full story. Because when it ends, and it will, you won't be the same. You will have wings. And the space that once felt empty will have become the very atmosphere of your becoming. Honor your cocoon. It is not the end. It is the promise that something vast, luminous, and deeply yours is on its way.